Welcome everybody. What we're creating today is a tea light candle holder or a little votive. This is made of plywood, so do not put a real candle in here. They tend to catch on fire. A little warning to the wise, I'll give you an LED light that you can use, but this is what it ends up looking like. Something like this. Okay, let's get started. So to do this, we're going to use some patterning tools that are going to be fun to get familiar with. First of all, let's save our file. So I clicked on over here on the Save File button, and now I'm going to call mine Tree Votive. I'm going to try to do like a weird like impression of a tree. See how it turns out. I don't know. And I'm going to put mine in my tea light holder location, so you can create a new location here if you'd like. All right. So let's get down to it. What we're going to basically do is we're going to model out one of these shapes, get it all totally done, and then we're going to do a circular pattern tool to create a bunch of copies of it around. So when we're doing this, we're going to want to stay away from the center line. I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to click Create a Sketch. And I'm going to create this sketch on the side, although you could do it on the face as well, just not on the bottom is best. We're going to use, let's draw that line first. We're going to use, I'm going to grab my line tool. I'm going to grab a construction line. Remember, that's not a real line. It's just to help you line stuff up. So I'm going to click on the origin here and just drag it up. And let's see, this is about, we're going to go maybe 15, 20 centimeters at most. So I'm going to come up here to 15 to 20 centimeters. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go over like maybe 15 centimeters, and then there, and then I'm going to come down. These are all just construction lines. What I'm doing is I'm creating a bounding box. So as I'm creating my design for it, it'll stay inside that dimension. The maximum dimension you can get up to is like 20 or so, but 15 is about that tall. So that's about what we have going on here. If you want a little taller, make your little box a little bigger. If you want a little smaller, make your box a little smaller. So this will just give us a feel for where we want to stay inside of. Now in the end, we're going to rotate our pattern around this center line. So we want to keep the pattern a little bit away from that end, so that the insides here, you can see where all the insides come together. That needs to be so there's no plywood there. So we want to stay a few centimeters away from this vertical line right here when we're making our pattern. All right, so let's do it. I'm going to just grab my line tool and I'm just going to start. I'm going to do like, whoops, let me turn off the construction lines because this is a real line I'm doing. I'm doing like, I'm just going to draw some stuff and see how it turns out. See what I think of it. So I'm going to try and draw something that looks kind of like a crookedish tree. So I'm going to put some branches out here and just kind of playing. Maybe make a little crooked branch. And I'm going a little beyond my bounding box, and that's okay. I'm trying to make something that looks a little branchy. That didn't look very branchy. Let's pick it up again. So I just Controlled Z and undid some stuff. You can do whatever you want. You can keep the shape simple. I'm going to go a little complex here. Although maybe I shouldn't have. There. I'm not going to spend too much time doing this. If I was doing this for real, I would spend a little more time trying to get it looking kind of cool. Right now, I'm just trying to get a branchy-like shape out there. Now, the key to all of this, will be, we have to bring it back down and close it off. So this is where I'm going to do that closing off thing. And I want to have this base, this bottom part down here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This part down here needs to be like a big thick part down here. That's where we're going to have all the bottom pieces attach so that they can hold together. So this is my like tree. Like it's not perfect, but it's not terrible either. I kind of dig it. And then maybe I forgot a line down here. I did, there we go. And we're looking to get something like this where it turns blue. Once it turns blue, we can extrude it. Now before we do that, we need to add our dimensions. So I'm gonna go here, modify and change parameters. I'm gonna add a user parameter. I'm gonna call this thickness. This is gonna be the thickness of the plywood. Find a piece of plywood that you're gonna, couple pieces of plywood that you think about using. Use the calipers to measure the thickness, enter that value here. For me, it is 0.2775. Remember that this is in centimeters, so in your caliper measures in millimeters. You got to convert to centimeters. So don't put 2.775 millimeters here. If you do, just change this to millimeters. Just make sure you keep the units and number the same. Click OK, and I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to extrude this kind of ugly looking thing, but I think it'll look cool when it's done. Thickness, enter. And now I've got my first piece of plywood rocking and rolling. Awesome. The next thing to do is we're going to actually cut a slot across here because this center circle, this centerpiece is going to be, need to get a slot cut into it so it slides in there. And we're going to cut it like almost halfway. So let's do this real quick. I'm going to create a sketch on this outside face. And I'm going to grab a rectangle. I'm going to come down here and just, I'm going to do it right there at that point that I created. Again, this is kind of up to you to do it kind of however you want. I'm going to make it the thickness wide because that's where the plywood is going to slide in. Hit tab, and then I'm just going to zoom back out and take a look. I want to go about halfway-ish. Yeah, like there it looks pretty good. And I'm going to go ahead and do another one down here towards the bottom. We need to do 2. And again, tab, this one's thickness. We need to do 2 because it just needs to be strong. So you're going to need like a support above and a support below. And then I'm going to hit enter there as well and go about yay much. And then extrude, extrude. And these two we're going to go negative thickness on. And if I tip it, I can see that. Yeah, so I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to go negative thickness, enter. Yeah, there we go. Good. Now those are the slots that are going to slide onto that center, those 2 discs. There'll be a disc above and a disc below, and that will hold everything in place. You can see the disc below there. All right, so at this point, we're ready to pattern this and just like roll it around and see what happens. So to do that, we are going to come up here and do the modify tool. And we're going to do maybe create is what we wanted. And pattern and circular pattern. So right there. And we want it on type, we want to do the whole body. So we want to pattern the whole body around. And the axis is what we're going to rotate around. And we're going to rotate around this vertical axis right here. Boom. Oh, I didn't check my object. So I got to tell it what object I want to pattern. I was wondering why it didn't work. Okay, so now it's got a pattern going. You can see right there, there's 3 of them. And I'm going to just keep going up until I think it looks pretty cool. I'm looking from the top as well. I want to make sure that I don't, see how if I keep going too high, they'll start overlapping with each other. And then I know I've gone too far. Like, Right about here, they start overlapping, and now they're definitely overlapping when I get to 30. So if I zoom in here, like I couldn't create this because the plywood would be on top of each other. So I might go back down to 18. I mean, that's a lot. All right, that's pretty cool. Oh, that's pretty wild looking. So 18 might be too many. That might be a bit much. I might want to take that down a notch. But this is what you're going to do. You're going to kind of figure out from what you created, like where do you want to go with it next. The other thing you could do, so let me back up a step. I'm going to undo this patterning. So I'm going to come down here, undo the patterning tool. And I'm going to show you one more thing that you could do to make it look kind of cool. But that's what that looked like. So let's take a look at, let's go back and see what that looked like. And from the top, it looks kind of like this. From the home, it looks kind of like this. Now, before you pattern, you can do this other really cool thing, which is you can take your object here. So I'm going to go flat to it again. I'm going to hit the move, M for move, and I'm going to click on it here. Then I'm going to look at it from above. So I want to be on top like this. I can take this and actually rotate it a few degrees. Whoops. Notice how I have the face selected here? So all it's rotating is one face of it. So just swept the face through. I don't want to do that. I want to come over here and choose body. I want to rotate the whole body, which means I need to re-highlight my object. So I'm going to do this one. And then from the top, I'm going to do it maybe just like, I don't know, 10 degrees. I'm trying to think of where I want my rotation to happen at. I think that should be fine. Just a small rotation. I'm even going to do just 5 degrees. That's all it's going to. Well, let's do 10. Let's do exaggerated. This is the most you'd probably want to ever do. And I'm going to click OK. I'm going to come back down here. And now I'm going to do my circular pattern tool. So I'm going to go to Create. I'm going to do a circular pattern. I'm going to select my object. Make sure it says Bodies. My axis I'm going to select is still this blue one. And now you can see, I'm going to click OK. Now you can see the difference that makes. So instead of being all facing each other, they're all kind of twisted in this cool way around a center point. So I'm going to click back out to home, and you can see just the difference in look that is. So instead of it being like square to it, it's just a different look. So you can try tipping stuff before you pattern it and see what that looks like. Just make sure that when you look at it from the top, that nothing is overlapping each other and hitting each other. So very cool process, very cool features. Play around with that, change stuff around. I think I'll leave mine like this because I kind of want to see how it turns out. And now what we need to do is we need to actually draw a piece of plywood that goes kind of from these outside edges all the way around. So let's do that. When we draw this, we want it to be in this slot. So I'm actually going to create my sketch on one of those surfaces. So I'm going to create it right here on this surface so that it's in the right place. And now things are going to get really confusing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pattern, I'm going to project all these shapes onto the sketch, and then I'm going to turn them all off so I can see what's going on. So first thing to do is come here and do create, project include, and we're going to do an intersect command. Because what we want to know is where all of these pieces touch our plane so we know where to draw our thing to. So I'm going to turn on my body. So I want selection filter to be body because I want to select the whole body. And I'm going to select all of these. In fact, I'm going to do it faster by coming over to my bodies menu, click on the first body, and then click on the last body. And that will select all of them, and I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to hide all of the bodies at once just with the folder one. And now we can see where it goes through. This is where, these lines are where the plywood from the side pieces goes through the plane. So this is where I want to sketch my shape. I can do it a couple different ways. So let me turn on one body and we can see really what happens here. Let me turn off all of them but one. So when I tip here, I zoom in, you can see what it's done is drawn where the outside edge of this goes through my plane. It hasn't drawn the outside edge of the whole thing. This is right where. So what I want to do is I want my main support at the top, I want it to be at most out to this edge, and to this edge, and to this edge, and to this edge. Or I could set it in some so you can see how this one has this look of being set in a little bit. So it's really just what aesthetic, what do you want to see happen in your stuff? If you want to have it set in some, I'll show you how to do that. If you want to have it full size, I'll show you how to do that as well. Okay. And I'm going to turn this off. It looks like, I don't know how many I made. We'll have to count them, I guess. So one way to do this is to draw a circle and have that circle be just centered here and then as far out as you'd like. So do you want it to be all the way to this edge? Or do you want it to come in some and sit right like in there? That's one way. The next way is to do a polygon. And you're going to click in the center again to center it. And then you're going to do the number of sides. So if you hit, like right now, that's the size. If you hit tab, you can do the number of sides. I wanted to say, I don't know, 12. How many did we do? Did more than 12. Let's see, 18. I think we did 18. Am I crazy? Yeah, I think we did 18. So now I'm just lining it up so that the centers are in the center of those pieces. And I'm going to have mine go, I don't know, about ish. And we'll see if we can't figure out how to make it perfect. Yeah, that looks great. So I think I'm going to do this. Now I do want this point to be right in the middle of these lines. So I'm actually going to take a line tool. I'm going to take a construction line. I'm going to drag it right down. I'm looking at it from the, I want to look at it from the top. I had my drawing tipped, which I didn't want to do. There we go. Now I can see what's going on. Now I want this down at 90 degrees, just like that. Boom. And then I'm going to take my coincidence tool. I'm going to say here and here. And then I'm going to take my midpoint tool, and I'm going to say, I want this point to be in the middle of that point. And now it is. So I think it may have already been there, so that's good. Okay, now we need to make this into something real. So let's tip it back over. And this is going to require lots of clicking, I think, but we'll live through it. I'm going to turn one body back on so I can see what's going on now. And you can see here from the side that I'm drawing, let me rotate it properly. I'm drawing from the bottom, so I need to extrude this up. So I'm looking at it from the top, I need to extrude it up one layer. So I'm going to turn that body back off, and then I'm going to extrude, and I'm going to extrude this, and I have to extrude all of these things as well. Let's see if I can highlight them. Nice. Okay, I'm just going to zoom out. Oh, I don't want these outside pieces, though. So, yeah, that'll do it. So as long as you don't grab the entire outside piece, you should be able to select it without, or to wrap a box around, as long as you don't get the whole thing. Oh, well, that was frustrating. All right, so I'm going to do a different technique here. I'm going to actually cut some of this stuff. I'm going to use my trim tool, and I'm just going to cut away one side. Oh, I can't get rid of the projections. So you can't trim the projections, which is kind of a bummer. So I've got to do it the hard way. So I'm just going to go back and do my extrude tool. So E for extrude. I'm going to grab that one. I'm just going to grab each of these. Okay, now I'm going to extrude it a thickness, and I want to go up again, remember, because I put it on the bottom of that indentation. So here I'm going to go thickness, enter, and now I'm going to say, I'm going to call this one upper disc. And those are all the arms. I'm not going to rename all the arms. I'm just going to leave them the way they are, and then I'm just going to turn them all back on. In fact, because I want to be able to turn these on and off quickly, I'm going to create a group for them. So on the bodies, I'm going to right click and do new group. And let's call this one arms. And then let's grab all of the arms that we created and just drop them into that arms folder. Now I can hide the arms and bring them back without having any extra effort. Okay, so now I need to cut all those slots into this one so they can slide in there. So what I'm going to do now is use the combine tool. I'm going to click here, and then my tool bodies, I'm going to turn my arms on. I'm going to choose all my arms. So I'm going to expand the box. I'm going to click, go down to the bottom and hold down Shift and click. And now I have all those bodies. And instead of join, I want to cut. I want to make sure I have my Keep Tools button going. And I'm going to click OK. Now when I hide my arms, you can see I just cut all these little slots in there. So now they'll all slide right into place. I need to do the same thing for a lower one to give it two points of support. And we will do that in our next video. Thanks a lot. Hang in there.